Alright folks, welcome back to the Path of Rage and our weekly Star Citizen News Roundup. We have not a lot to talk about, but at the same time a lot to talk about. There was only an Inside Star Citizen this week, no Star Citizen Live, because the devs have been pretty much heads down, banging away at bugs to get 323 out, which is the big news for the week. 323 is now out, it's live, and we're going to get into it. As far as Inside Star Citizen goes, this one was filler, basically. I think they were more worried about getting a handle on 323 and getting it out there. It was titled Paws and Claws. It's about the new Copion and the Merrick fauna that were added to the game on a few of the planets. Really not a lot to say. It's more of a development update on how they were made, why the Merrick is a Boyd, and why the Copion is an actual animated creature with rhythms and patterns that will attack you. You can find them in caves now. In any case, if you're interested in the development of how creatures will work going forward in the game, and a hint of what might be coming regarding crafting with animals, then I suggest you watch Inside Star Citizen this week. I'll provide a link down below. And where they're going to get their first taste, actually, of all the new features in this patch, which is the largest patch that CIG has made to Star Citizen since, I believe, 3.0, when they added planets in and the ability to go to them. This is huge. They have added so much into this patch that it kind of beggars the imagination, considering the slow pace of Star Citizen Persistent Universe development before this. They've added in the new character customizer, which for those people who really are worried about, making their character look just so in game, well, this is absolutely probably the best character customizer I've ever seen. I've already seen so many videos online of people just spending ridiculous amounts of time trying to get the characters exactly what they want. We still need some more heads. There's not quite enough in it, but they said in one of the recent patch updates, or pardon me, roadmap updates, that they're getting ready to add another 40 heads that we can blend and mix and match with. So that's going to get even better. This is awesome, and now you have the ability to save your character, and that way you won't lose them every time there's a wipe. You'll be able to just re-import your character. So overall, right off the bat, here's your nice new customizer. The game has a new mobi-glass that players are going to be able to use, which shows off a lot more information. The new contracts manager has been much improved. The drop-down menus here on the side, an actual tab that you can flick so you know which type of missions you're getting, if they're legal or illegal completely, and the illegal missions will also be highlighted in red. The mobi-glass will also show you your health and the status of the ship that you have once you've called it in, any notifications you have, damage to your body, and the contracts in the top left. Overall, this is a nice improvement as well. And that leads us into the new map app, which is the star map and the mini map that we now have combined. The mini map is stupidly useful. Being able to tag spots on the map so that you can have a direction to go, not get lost quite as easily, and believe me, in those giant distribution centers, that'll make a difference. And also just the update to the star map, and how much easier it is to plot a course now, how much smoother the overhaul to the star map is. It's a night and day difference to the previous system, and it's going to make another huge difference to the game. Again, this patch is massive, folks, and it changes so many aspects of this game. It's kind of hard to fathom. the new player interaction system that we've been talking about for months now is finally fully into the game, and I love this change. Oh, I know some people are not fond of the fact that there's an F floating on everything, but you can turn that off in the game options if you want to. I prefer to leave it on. It is so much smoother and it's so much easier to use. And then bringing up the new personal inner thought with the wheel, and you can set default actions to it. Just this whole interaction system streamlines so much of Star Citizen that it makes it feel like an entirely new game at times. It really does. I even like the new little pop-ups when you're in a store that you can just see the AR interface pop up beside an item and just quick buy it right there on the spot. Again, yet another addition to the personal interaction system. It's nice. It's streamlined, and it works, and it's not overly obtrusive to me. I like the way the interaction system works, especially the new looting screen. Oh my God, this is a godsend when you're playing in a combat mission, especially if there ends up being more enemies than you thought and you run out of ammo. You can loot weapons and equipment and med pens and stuff so much quicker than you used to be able to before. Before 323 and 322 and even prior to that, I got killed trying to just grab one more magazine to finish off those last couple guys, even as glitched out as the AI was. That's how I got killed more often than not. This looting screen is just so much better, so much snappier, so much quicker, and just so much easier to use, which is a good thing, because 323 has also seen a nice improvement on the AI when the server's running decently, which we'll get to. The updated first-person shooting and gun handling has been put into the game. The same with the update to the scopes, ammo repooling, the way reloading works, overall the way movement works. We've also got that dynamic crosshair, again though only on combat helmets. If you have a helmet that's not a combat helmet, this won't apply, which is the way it should be. But we've got the new dynamic crosshair for when you are in those combat missions to see where your gun is pointing, which also include hit and kill markers. I think that these hit and kill markers are slightly too large. I think they're a little distracting, but I do like the fact that they're there. I don't really need a super hardcore milsim style of game with this. I got Gray Zone and Tarkov and all that for that type of gameplay. I do think though again that the dynamic crosshairs, the hit markers could be just a little bit smaller, but that has been added to the game, and I do think it's an improvement. Another huge addition to the way Star Citizen plays is the EVA system. The way you Superman around and the way you move in 0G now is night and day difference from 322. 322 was bulky, it was stiff, you were constantly banging and bouncing off of everything, it was hard to control, and more often than not, even when you were coming in at a nice controlled speed to, say, the back of your cutlass to land back on the deck, more often than not you ended up face planting on the deck because EVA just didn't really work that well. Now EVA is an absolute joy to partake in. I love missions where I'm going and searching the derelict spacecraft in space for like a flight recorder or something, because EVA is so nice now. You move forward in that Superman pose. You keep moving that way even when you stop holding forward. So you maintain momentum the way you think you should. And you can change direction, you can move around and shoot, and it is such an improvement that it makes going EVA almost feel natural and intuitive, the way the game should be, as opposed to that horrible version we had before. This alone, on top of everything else, this alone would make my day with this patch. It's that big of an improvement, folks. If you haven't gotten into 3.2.3 yet, absolutely give it a try, and compare it to 3.2.2. It's night and day difference. My God, it's so good. The other massive change to the game is, of course, master modes and the change to the flight model. Now, they've been tweaking and tuning this over the course of the patches. I mean, hell, last week saw 5 patches to this build alone. CIG has been really cranking them out. But they've been tuning master modes to try and dial it in a bit more and get it more in line with what they want. There used to be a ridiculously long wait between switching from standard combat mode and the navigation modes. They've shortened that down a lot, and it's based on the size of your ship now. I'm finding that in 3.2.3 Live, it works better. The state that they have it in right now still needs some work, but it's not bothering me to use it. I actually think it's a good system. I like the way we can zoom in combat a little bit to really focus on systems. I like the fact that our weapons will actually shoot without a range limit. They'll fire as far away as you want to if you lead your target up, but they rely on the spread of the weapons to kind of cut down on the amount of damage you're taking. The problem with master modes in combat right now is that it makes it very hard to avoid fire. So even from AI, like, they can't avoid your fire, you can't avoid theirs. Combat at times does seem to be whoever has the most damaging guns firing first will win. Again, they're working on it, but it is a massive change. In SCM mode, standard combat mode, that's where you have your shields, and that's where you have your weapons. Or if you're in a vehicle such as the Vulture, the salvage vehicle, that's where you have your ability to use your salvage arms. It's a standard combat mode. When you go switch over to nav mode, you've got your nav quantum mode and your nav flight mode, which allows you to go to higher speeds, and the quantum mode allows you to jump into quantum and plot the courses and all that, but you lose your shields and your weapons. So it makes choosing to get out of combat or run from combat or stay in combat a little bit more of an actual choice. Do I run? Do I go? Overall, I like it. Again, it does need some tuning right now. They're looking into, especially on 1v1s, ways to break up the no way to get away from any kind of damage. It's a work in progress. However, when you compare it again to 3.22, the previous patch cycle, it's night and day, and it completely changes the way flight of any kind works in Star Citizen. It absolutely does. It makes traversal overall, I think, a lot better as well, and just it separates out the different aspects of flight in a way that kind of makes sense. For those of you who haven't tried it, I suggest you do. Those of you who are sitting on the fence, give it some time, and we'll see how it goes. This is the direction they're going in right now, so we might as well get used to it. But be sure to leave your feedback on the issue council and on the forums and on Reddit. They are listening, and this is one of those big areas that they're working on that has really changed the game. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments below on this topic in particular, because a lot of people are divided on it. They've made a bunch of additions as well to Arena Commander. For those who are interested in the engineering gameplay, that is where you can try it out now. Mind you, those are multiplayer only modes. I don't really think it's going to do you any good to jump in by yourself, but even if you don't get anyone on the server with you, you can take a look at the screen, how the engineering works, kind of get an idea of where CIG is going with that. That's going to be a ridiculous change to the game as well once that fully comes in. That will take large ship and capital ship combat and completely rewrite how how it goes on in this game, because capital ships and large ships will absolutely be a team effort. The additions to Arena Commander also include the a big batch of new maps that they added, especially for racing. We covered this a couple weeks ago, I believe, and some more experimental modes. Again, it's stuff you can, you know, look to test out if you want. Some a little more casual. I really don't do too much in Arena Commander. I'm more focused on the persistent universe, but for those of you who are into it, well, there it is. Like I mentioned earlier, the distribution centers are in the game now, and they are massive. Absolutely massive. Frame rates there are also terrible, but that's to be expected right now. That's one thing people shouldn't really be expecting from the 3.2.3 patch is vast performance improvements. Well, the performance is better. It's still not anywhere near where we need it to be. But yeah, the distribution centers are in there. They're huge, and you will be very thankful for the minimap with them. They have missions tied to them, going to them, leaving from them, completely in and within them, contained within them. And even the missions that are there are spread out enough that you're going to want a ship, or at the very least a ground vehicle, to move stuff around. This is, again, it's a big addition to the game. These places are as big as, if maybe not a little bit bigger in some ways, than the landing zones themselves. So yeah, that's a nice new addition to 3.2.3 that players are going to get to experience, with missions of all kinds, from cargo delivery to combat missions, legal and illegal. We are going to be spending a lot of time in these distribution centers, folks, so I hope you like what you see with them. 3.2.3 finally sees players getting upscaling, and the first implementation of Vulcan as well. Although that is still in beta, you can enable it. It functions well enough now. In the initial patches, it was causing a lot of crashes and a lot of bugs, but they seem to have been really ironing those out. Things are going well on the Vulcan front, from what I, as a uneducated non-programmer, can tell. But the upscaling has also been added with DLSS and CIG's own version of it that they call TSR. I think this will really depend on your system, because with the system I have, upscaling really doesn't do anything for me at this point. I think I'm more limited CPU wise. I have a 4070 Super, 64 gigs of RAM, but I have an older CPU. I think it's a 5700, AMD 5700, something like that. I don't remember offhand for while I'm recording this, but turning on DLSS or CIG's TSR doesn't do anything to my frame rate. It doesn't do really anything to the visuals either, so it still looks good. I can tell it's smoothing things out a little bit, but it's not making things wildly blurry like some other games do. But overall, it's, at the moment, it's not doing anything for me on my system. So keep that in mind, folks. If you're looking for 3.2.3 and the implementation of DSR or DLSS to really boost your frame rates, your mileage may vary. Beyond that, we also get the update to the water rendering technology, which looks fantastic now. And while I don't have video of it of my own to show you in the background, all the video footage we've seen from CIG of the low flies over the water, it looks exactly like that. It looks fantastic. But now, what I think is the biggest feature of 3.2.3 is actually something that you're not going to see visually. It's not going to jump out at you on the screen. It's the underlying tech, and that is the replication layer. This is absolutely huge. It's the next needed step towards dynamic server meshing, and I saw a clip of Chris Roberts the other day talking about how that's the case, and they're working on server meshing, and how they, he thinks it might be in the next year that they finally get dynamic server meshing going. Again, we all know what Chris is like on giving dates, so take that with a mountain of salt. But in a way, it almost feels like a hefty step towards that. The replication layer is what's keeping the game running in the background, so you're not actually on that server, that one lone server that's running everything. There's multiple servers that can be up, and the replication layer is keeping them all going. And what I mean by it's partially dynamic in this point is when a server error occurs and the server crashes, the replication layer, from what I understand, and correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but from what I understand, the replication layer either restarts that server and you pick up where you left off, and it can take some time. It's not instantaneous, but if the server has completely crashed, it spins up a new server and puts you on it, and you pick up where you left off. It's not the dynamic that they were showing off where you're, kicking objects from one server to another. That kind of thing. It's still more basic than that, but the cool thing about it is it's now in the game. It is this massive, massive fundamental change to the underlying programming of the game. And a lot of us who've been with this project for a long time seriously expected that this was going to be another 318 moment where we couldn't play for months. It would not stand up to the stress of the live environment and the influx of players that the live environment always sees, and it kind of did. It had its teething problems, yeah. I mean, hell, they've already got a patch for it on the PTU for a 0.1 patch. It's up. It's granted, it's focused on Fleet Week and the show floor for that, so it's a very minor thing, but they put that on a Sunday. So they've been working through the weekend on this, and for the most part, it's my experience with 323 has been very smooth. Combat has been smooth. AI combat, like first-person combat, has been smooth. And when I've been on, usually a newer server, but when I've been on a server that's running well, doing bunker missions and what have you, they are fighting back well enough, giving a bit of a challenge. They're still dumb as posts, but again, if the server's running well, watch out. They're using sniper rifles from long distances, forcing you to think about how to approach them. Like all of that. Just the overall flow of the game, the way the interaction system is working. Same with transit and master modes and the way flight works. All of it felt unbelievably smooth, especially because when you compare it to literally the PTU patch the day before it was released to live. I was stunned at how smooth the game ran overall. And I don't mean smooth from a super high frame rate position. I mean the functioning of the game itself. I genuinely thought that it was going to be a lot buggier, a lot more desync like we were used to, a lot more disconnects. I have not had a single server error disconnect since 323 launched to live. Not one. What has happened, and why I'm going to tell folks to still temper your expectations, what has happened is that every mission I've ever taken has broken before I could finish it, with very few exceptions. I've been able to complete a couple of underground bunker missions. I've been able to complete a couple of just box delivery missions, but any of the ones I've tried, including the one in the background here at the distribution centers, I've failed for just the mission not updating or falling through an elevator or the floor, something like that. This is still a buggy game, folks. Keep this in mind. But all of this coming together, all of the way this works right now, this is a fantastic patch. It is a fantastic addition to the game, to Star Citizen. It's going a long ways to show what this game could be. And I can't wait to see what they do with it. If you guys decide to jump into this game, give it a try. Keep your expectations for a flawless game completely out the window. Know what you're getting into, but give it a try, and sound off in my comments down below. Let me know what you think of this overall. Do you like where this is going? What do you think of master modes? What do you think of the updates to the first person combat, EVA, all of it? I want to hear from you. Don't forget that upcoming is international, or the Fleet Week, which will be a free fly event for anybody at all who's watching this who hasn't bought a game package and is thinking about trying it out. There's going to be your chance. Those of you who do decide to buy into the game, well, get the $45 minimum package. All you need. Use my creator code down in the description and get yourself, I think right now, a Dragonfly and some extra money. I get the same thing too. I'm not really worried about that. If you feel like doing it, do it. If not, don't spend any more than $45, folks. You don't need to do it. The game's still in development. I think it's going somewhere. I think it's worth at least the early access price right now. But again, sound off in the comments of what you think. And until the meantime, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope I, gave you a bit more information. I hope hearing my opinion on the current state of 323 helps you make up your own mind about whether or not to give it a try if you haven't, what you think. If you thought I did a good job, give me a thumbs up. If not, give me a thumbs down as always. I've been Rage at Games, and I love this game. I hope you'll like it too. And, just for shits and giggles here as I sign off, this is how my last session ended in typical Star Citizen fashion. I'll see you in the next one, folks.